you just let them know there's been two technicalities and they won't see our faces. They'll just see the PowerPoint for a bit. Yeah.
Are we ready to go? Good morning, everyone. Just before we kick off our session today, I just want, for those that are online, we've just got a bit of technical difficulty, so you will not be able to see the panel. Oh, you can. We've just been informed you can see us now. So that's really good. And apologies for just kicking off late because of the technical difficulties. Just before we go through, I just want to do an acknowledgement. So I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands in which we're meeting on today. I want to pay my respects to our elders, those that are past, present, emerging, and also acknowledge aunties and uncles and brothers and sisters in the room. I want to acknowledge the fight in which our elders have fought so hard and have paved the way for us, and also acknowledge the countries in which everyone is joining us on today. So my name is Lisa Wellington. I'm a part of our executive leadership team at Waminda. My responsibility and cluster that I cover is Gudjaga, which is our client and family services section of the organisation. I will also get the panel to introduce themselves. And we want to welcome everyone today. We wanted to bring everyone together and share with community our big major capital projects that we have coming up. We're also going to be covering in our session around our birthing on country, Gudjaga Gunyahlamai, our women's wellness centre, which is our women and children's rehab centre, our Blak Gunyah Café, our wellness retreat, which is our Refuge, and also we want to talk about our 40-year celebration. So I'm just going to hand you over to Mel Briggs and she can introduce herself.
Thanks, Lise. Hello, my name is Mel Briggs and I work as one of the senior Balang women here at Waminda, and I'm also the Birthing on Country manager.
I'm Wellington, part of the exec leadership team, and under my profile I have Gunyah, which is around our cultural activities and programs within Waminda, and also Kawo, working alongside Mel with Birthing on Country.
Hayley Longbottom. My cluster is our capital cluster, which is our primary healthcare and wellbeing services.
Chrissy Falzon, so I'm also part of the executive team. I look after what we call BHAV, so back of house, but and operations as well.
Penny Wildy, I look after case management and fall under Lisa Wellington's cluster.
Cool, so that leads us into Birthing on Country. So we're just going to give you a bit of a history of, you know, the reasons why we came to be, the purpose of Birthing on Country, and I think for us, you know, it's been a long journey with Birthing on Country, but it's been a journey that's been worth it because now we're going to actually have the funds and means to build our own birthing centre. So I'll hand it over to Mel, who, you know, who's been on this journey for the 8 years along with, you know, the other executives, and we've also obviously brought in other people to support us to pull together the proposal, the briefs, and so it's been a really team effort for us to get here, but I'll hand over to Mel to explain it a bit more.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. Yeah, so we've been on this journey for 8 years. We were approached back in 2016, I think it was 16 or 17, by Aunty Juanita Sherwood and the Queensland University to be part of a National Health and Medical Research grant to research and evaluate maternity models of care that are most appropriate for our people, our women and our families. And we were asked to be the regional site because there were 3 sites within that research project, urban, regional and remote. And yeah, I think that was a 5-year research. And it was basically to map out, you know, what exists and where are the gaps and you know, what do our women want in terms of being cared for to have babies. So we did that. We had community consultations. We went up to north, up Shell Harbour Way, and then went down as far as Ulladulla. And we got some feedback from the women, and we published a paper with those consultations. And the themes that come out of that was that the women wanted a safe space. They didn't want to, and this isn't news stories, right? This is just stories that needed to be published and to be told so that we could use the evidence to then drive the force of birthing on country. So it's something that, you know, the women just said they're sick of their babies being taken. They're sick of being treated very poorly by the system. You know, they're sick of bad treatment, basically. And they want family to be involved, and they wanted their own birthing space. So from that, we've worked really hard as a team to sort of build the business cases to try and get and to lobby. We lobbied for many, many years. We drove to Canberra a couple of times a week at some stages. Hey, like it was full on, and it just seemed like it was never going to get there. But you know, the more and more we did, and the more evidence that we created, the more business plans we created, and the more women that gave us more information to sort of support us to push forward, I guess. It's gotten us here today.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, like when talking about the birth centre, when Mel said, you know, we've been able to build relationships during this time with people in New South Wales Health, you know, Federal Health, like all these different departments, because if anything, the work that Waminda does is we know what's needed for our community because we listen to our community, we are community. So for us, it's just never backing down and always pushing against the system. And like we said, we've got to a point now where, you know, do you want to just talk about how we got the build funding?
Oh, yeah. So the building funding, where do we start with that?
Oh, just the short version.
The short version?
Yeah, just about Linda Bernier.
Oh, yeah. So Auntie Linda Burney, obviously there's been a big movement in, you know, a shift in government around, you know, women leadership, and when we were lobbying for our birth space prior to the Labor government coming in, we'd had quite a big meeting before that election, and I remember sitting in a meeting. We were sitting in a meeting, hey, and we were really pushing against, you know, a white man telling us, you know, we had to, you know, demand what our case was to him, and it was like, well, you know, it wasn't the right person. But anyway, he actually come on board and said, well, you know, and told his people in his government that this needs to happen and that we have to change legislation. So part of having our own birth centre is the New South Wales Private Health Facilities Act required that there be a medical officer on site. We lobbied really, really hard to push against that because we don't want it to be obstetric-led, we want it to be midwifery-led and Aboriginal women-led. So we got that change. We changed the legislation, and we have our own birthing on country legislation now around birth centre facility, which is really great. And that changed in a matter of like 6 weeks. So it can be done. I mean, we did the hard work beforehand, but we really pushed at the end. And then once Auntie Linda Burney come into, well, there was a commitment from the Labor government prior to the election that the commitment was there to support birthing on country and an Aboriginal women-led birth centre. And then once the Labor government come in, it was committed, and it was stamped, sealed, signed, sealed and delivered.
Yeah,
So,
and from that, it then pushed for us to get the operational funding.
Yeah.
So then that was state funding. So federally, we got the funding for the build, and then state was to actually have it operational for 10 years. So, which is really exciting, which means the birth centre is fully funded. So when talking about the birth centre, do you just want to talk about, Mel, about the team and the setup and the MGP? And
yeah. So the birth centre is well, birthing on country is everything, right? So we've got a midwifery team, we've got a women's reproductive and sexual health team, we've got child and family health practitioners, Aboriginal health practitioners. We've got quite an amazing team that wraps around women during pregnancy and up to, when children are school age. We have a GP, a few GPs actually. And also having a facility that has the allied health services that wrap around the women and the babies too. So like eyes, ears, nose, hearing, like all of those things, growth and development, teeth, everything that creates longevity of life for our babies. So that's, that's everything.
And
and on call.
Yeah.
So on call.
And the MGP.
So the midwives within our team. So part of our pushback as well, like midwifery, to employ endorsed midwives under Waminda, which is basically a midwife who can prescribe medicines and can then admit women into the hospital. Waminda is the first ACHO in the country to do that. And we're pretty proud of that work that we've all done to get to this place, because that's been a really big beast. So our midwives can now admit women as the midwives are our primary midwife, and they provide the birth care in the hospital system. So that's massive.
Yeah, and that's been a really big feat, and a lot of that work's come through that relationship building with the local hospital as well, the Illawarra Showground Local Health District. And, there's still some challenges, but it's getting there. But yeah, like Mel said, the biggest success is having our women in the room with our mums and their families, and they be the person there to support that mum to give birth. Yeah. Yeah, Annie.
Can I just say that what you did was actually change New South Wales Health's knowledge systems around our ways of knowing and being and doing.
Yeah.
They had no idea about the data and the number of babies that were being delivered here. They had really false stories about us. So the work you did really made a big difference for New South Wales Health and the country.
Yeah. And so just a bit of information about the birth centre. So, a birth centre isn't new, but it's the first of its kind because of the wraparound services that's going to be inclusive of the birth centre. So at the birth centre, it will be the MGPs, it'll be the Aboriginal health practitioners, it'll be the child and family health nurses, but then also it's the caseworkers. It's the workers that we need to support our mums and what they're going through in their life. And so having that support all in the one space for our families, that's the first of its kind. And the most important thing is for us to be able to practice our law, our culture, our birthing, going back to our birthing, going back to how we've always done it since time and beginning. So being able to give that opportunity to our mums and our bubs and, our newborn babies, first time hearing language when they're born, not hearing English, being able to be smoked and be cleansed, our mums not having to ask permission to take the placenta home and being refused. They'll be able to just do that through their birth. Having their families there, like Mel said. If anything, that's what it's about. It's about reclamation of our birthing, taking back that rights. And when we talk about our sacred birthing spaces, that's what the birth centre is. That's what it'll be. And so for us, that's the outcome. And, it's for our babies to grow and to learn and be strong in their identity and culture and to thrive. Everyone talks about closing the gap. It's not closing the gap, it's smashing the gap, it's eliminating the gap, it's reclamation, it's the self-determination, it's all of that. That's what the birth centre represents, and it's going to be the first of its kind. And we've been overseas and we looked at other birth centres and they're amazing, but not the way in which we're going to run it and we're going to own it. It's going to be ours, it's communities, it's women's. And so for us, that's one of the biggest things. And so for us, when we talk about culture within Waminda, we've got something called the Culture Committee. The Culture Committee is made up of 16 different women. And then you've got in the whole of Waminda, you've got over 50 family bloodlines on the south coast. So that's all that cultural knowledge that's held within Waminda that we're actually doing throughout the whole organisation and then through this birth centre. And that's the beauty of it as well. Do you want to go to the next slide, Lucy? So for those online, for those in the room, so this is our birth centre. And so this is our design. So what we've done is there's like two parts of the building. So there's the actual birthing rooms, which are at the back of the facility. And then towards the front more is where the case management and wraparound services will be. And so for us, this was really important to have a space that was welcoming, open. You know, you feel safe, you feel welcomed. It doesn't feel like you're walking into a hospital, like I can't go in that room, I can't go into that space. Not being clinical. So there's been a lot of thought process put into this. Again, like Mel had spoke about earlier, the consultations in community have really fed back through to this too, what they've said they've wanted. And, you know, it doesn't stop. We still want community to give us feedback about what's needed. I mean, that's why today is really important too, and past today. You know, we want to hear from community what their thoughts are, you know, what are the things that they want to see included. You know, with the birth rooms, there's 4. You know, then we've got family spaces, we've got spaces for family to stay overnight if that's needed. Because obviously when you give birth in a birth centre, you know, you give birth and then you can go home. You don't have to stay overnight. But if the need's there, we can do that. And then we've got spaces where, you know, we're going to have, you know, mums and bubs come in for, you know, their birthing classes, and, you know, it's just a welcoming, open space. And also for our women when they're birthing, to be able to go outside, to walk on the grass, to, you know, be out in the air, not have to always stay in the room. You know, the room's been, you know, open and being big enough to hold family, but also being inclusive and being, you know, being able to feel nurtured and cared for in the space. You know, and then there's spaces for family to go and have a feed, and, you know, while they're sitting there waiting for bub to come. And then when you go into the other half of the building, then you've got like the consult rooms. You know, so we're going to have the all the, what's it called, the baby checks and stuff.
Oh,
What are they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So all the consult rooms are there. We've also got a traditional medicines room. So, you know, it's all about using our own medicines and being able to do that in the space. Yeah, so just a really welcoming, homey, loving space. That's what the birth centre is going to represent. And so when you move through, so this is just a air visual of the actual Hillcrest Avenue is where it's actually going to be built. And so we've been able to purchase this property. And so you can see there's a lot of land there for future growth of different things. But for now, that's where the birth centre is going to go. So can you go to the next one? And just with the resources and the materials, you know, for us, it's really important that, you know, we use as much environment as possible within the build, and, you know, it's environmentally friendly. You know, using a lot of woods, a lot of natural lighting. The trees that you actually see in these pictures are actually the trees that are on the property now. So it's really amazing. We don't have to grow trees. And then the trees we do cut down, we're going to try and use that within the actual build. Do you want to go to the next one? And that's a view from the side view, where it actually will be the entry into the actual setup. Here you go. And so these are just some photos of the different materials and how it could possibly look. Because you know, what's really important to us is about our culture is having fire spaces, having water, you know, having raw material, having stone, wood, like I've said 100 times now. Next slide. Yeah, so rammed earth, you know, that'll be around the actual building. So it's like a solid, it's solid earth, and it makes the wall, and it's really quite beautiful, and it's quite grounding as well. So natural timber cladding, earthy tones, natural breezes lighting. You know, we're going to have our own artwork, our artefacts. Yeah, it's going to be an amazing space. Is there another one? And just some more images of what it can possibly look like and the feel of what we're going for within the birth centre. So really what we spoke about is bringing the outside in. And so it feels like, you know, like we're actually giving birth how we've always done it. Yeah. And I think that's it. Yeah, and just the community hub inclusion. So that's just saying that, you know, it's a welcoming space. Like I said earlier, it's for community to come and see, but then obviously giving the privacy for our mums when they're giving birth and, you know, having that past hours, of course, you know, when the mums need to come in, if it's, you know, we give birth at all hours, not just, you know, during business hours. So having that space where they can come in after. Eligibility is for, you know, Aboriginal women, but then women who are having Aboriginal children as well, so they can use the facility as well. Is there anything else you want to add? No?
Oh, just, you know, not really.
No? Yeah.
Yeah, well, all of those things we've had feedback about, and we've just done continuous consultation, and yeah, so it's like in the outside to the inside, exactly what Cleon was saying.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
everything's been consulted, and that's where we've got to.
Yeah, so the MGP officially starts in May. So our midwives will be, you know, the lead midwife there. And then in 2026 is when we envision for the birth centre to be built and operational. So we want to hear feedback from community more and just, you know, pass today and yeah.
I'm just thinking, you're running a birthing centre at the moment in Osborne Street, so is it continuity of care going from that space to the building? So currently you are working in this space.
Centre. We will be coming up with another name for the centre, but we're just calling it the Wellbeing Centre for the time being. We've been on a long journey for many, many years, 16 years in total. Waminda has been a part of this fight to be able to get a women and children's residential rehab centre in our area or on the south coast. We've been a part of the journey along with many other community members in the early stages of the fight, where there was a advisory committee group that was set up many years ago, made up of a lot of community members and organisations, and that in our area where we were fighting really hard because, you know, we knew that there was a massive need for women to be able to get the treatment that they deserve and not having to go off country. There was a feasibility study that was conducted in our area just around the need for the centre, and that was done years ago. We also were a part of a submission that we put in along with the other ARCHOs in our area, South Coast AMS, Katangal, Illawarra AMS and Oolong House, and unfortunately back then we were unsuccessful, but we did not give up the fight because we knew the need, and we knew that we needed to keep fighting to try and get a centre in our area. And we then put in another submission with the support and backing of our ARCHOs in our area, with South Coast AMS providing support, Katangal providing support, also Illawarra AMS providing support, but also the backing of the Glen Centre as well, who has been a major partner for us in this, and who continues to be on this journey with us and supporting us through this process. Go to the next slide. So as you can see, we don't have the beautiful pictures as yet, like with the birth centre, but this is a good opportunity for you guys to provide us with some input and looking at our design concepts and stuff. So our centre is for women and their children. We will be in operation, we're 10 bed. Also keeping in mind, you know, we want to make sure that we have those communal spaces spaces. We want to have space for families to be able to be there and get the support that they need, but also for the children as well. Our stay will be up to 6 to 8 months. We are looking at incorporating our rooms into that family space, so not only are they going to have the communal spaces, but also in their little rooms there will be that space for them as well. So just talking about some of the materials and finishes, we're going to go with the same concepts around that that rammed earth and natural timbers and hopefully using timbers on the site and that as well. Having those earthy tones and stuff, and also woven materials and that throughout. We want to make it a real homely feel. We don't want it to be a sterile centre and stuff like that. We want to make it so that they feel this is their home, that they're there for however long they're there to stay, the 6 to 8 months, but that's their place. So just in regards to like what I said, with the design and concept planning, that's underway. We're working through that process at the moment. Also to how this grant come about, we got this through New South Wales Health. It's funded through New South Wales Health through the treatment expansion grants, and this come out of a response to the Commission inquiry into ICE. We had given input into that, and this was one of the recommendations, Aboriginal women and children's residential rehab as well. We're due to start construction between March next year, what are we, 2024, sorry, yeah. March to November, and then we will be looking at the possibility of open an operation in January 2026. Next slide. Oh, that's me.
In social enterprise, this comes under our Midgenberry cluster, and I suppose where Waminda has come from and venturing into social enterprise, for as long as I've been at Waminda, that's always where we've wanted to head into and lead into, and it fits within our model of care perfectly, because as an Aboriginal women's health organisation, wellbeing organisation, we have to look at employment and supporting our young people and our older people to get experience and employment within our town, really, because when you walk through the streets of our area, we know that a lot of these places don't employ our mobs. So, knowing that our women are extremely successful and artistic, and we love our food, we're very creative in what we do and what we know. So it's always been within our realm to have. There was early talks of having a cafe with a shop front to be able to sell our art and all that sort of stuff. So this year, and right now, that's up and running and has come into fruition. So the cake store then becomes Blak Gunyah. I'll talk a little bit about that partnership with the cake store, because we used to go down there and meet quite often and sit in there and have our meetings, and we always looked around and talked about how good it would be for us to be able to do that in our own cafe, put money back into our own communities. And then with discussions with the previous owner of the cafe, he's supported us really, really well. Amit and Kylie, that used to own the cake store, and that's where Blak Gunyah has been able to, get up and running quite quickly, actually, with the support of the cake store's previous owners. So it's open now to community and the general public. It's locally sourced products, food products. We have our own traditional garden space that Waminda owns out at Torera. So we're growing our own endemic species, we're growing our own fruits and our own vegetables, our own medicines, to leading to the Black Seed Café, where we're creating, you know, food that nourishes us, realistically. Food that, you know that, you know, we love, we enjoy, food that's good for us, and it's not, you know, highly filled with preservatives and sweeteners and all that sort of stuff. So we've also, within the cafe, it tells a story itself. So we've got, the timber comes from the bushfire. So we've got an artist that has worked with our architect's papish, and we've created, you know, what it needs to be with the elements of the environments that surround us. We've got beautiful woven and emu feather light pendants. We've got our fish trap from Dulagar Artefacts, so it's all purposeful. Our seating is kangaroo leather, so we've got people to arrange and come in and look at that, and it's all our stuff. It's all about our knowing, doing and being, yeah. So if you haven't been there yet, please go there and enjoy, you know, what we've created for our people, from our people. You want to go to the next slide, Luce? Here's one of our chefs, Radhika Boney, and some of the pictures of the foods that we've created. Our menu's also, you know, how we talk and what we want to order, and we've created those purposefully as well. Some more pictures of some of the stuff. So when the Shoalhaven was first building the jail, we had an opportunity to run a little canteen out of there through Lend Lease, and we, you know, started that catering stuff back then. So we ran that kitchen out at the jail. That ended, but we wanted to keep continuing that. We had these skilled women. We, you know that we knew how to do that catering stuff. We knew how to supply food. We knew how to cook stuff, and so we continued to do that. We continued to do that from Nyali cooking. It first was, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Sorry, people online. I just got a drink. So it started as Nyali back then at the prisons, and so once that finished, Yilla, our building, our Deadly and Youth Space building, was able to become a hospitality kitchen. So then we were Black Sheep, and then we were able to cater to our staff and make really, really beautiful food, train Shay and Kailara up. They've been around, you know, since Black Sheep was first created. And then we heard a story from some mob down Victoria about the sheep that came and colonised our lands, wiped out our native rabbits. So we're like, oh, well, you know, we better change Black Sheep. And then we got together and we were like, okay, so what are we going to call this? How are we going to do this? And we were, you know, tossing up names, Seed, SEED for, you know, seed creates and grows and feeds at the end of it. And then we decided, well, we're an unseeded people, and realistically, when people come into our cafe, they're actually seeding what they think is the best thing. So, you know, the non-Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. And so that's where Black Seed came, and that's, you know, the story behind Black Seed. And so Black Seed, Gunyah, best coffee, I will vouch for that, had one this morning. Beautiful, beautiful pies. So we have a kangaroo pie, yum, delicious. We have a crocodile pie, extremely amazing. And we do our beautiful smoothies. We've got really nourishing breakfast, from breakfast through to afternoon tea. Fresh juices, and a lot of it is homemade. So we're also going to be able to have, you know, our women cook, you know, and have a Titters special, and, you know, for them to put it on the table. We've got a little sales shelf where we've got local artists with their earrings and jewellery, and we've got our own merchandise that you can buy as well. And then we've also gone live on our online store, on our online store. We've gone live on our online store. So this is some of the produce that we're growing from Karela out at Torera. Our finger limes. I'm not sure what Michelle's holding there, but it looks like we could utilise that in the kitchen. But yeah, we're in that space of growing our own stuff. Also with our partners, that our landholders within the Shoalhaven, offering us some land to be able to grow, and so there's also future prospects there. And that's some more of our produce that we've got in store, and some of that stuff in the background you can order online as well. You can go in and buy that off the shelf also. Some of our merch, yeah. That's some of our staff modelling some of our merch. So our Blak, Cede, we've got Staunch As, Terrible Lovely, Gunyah, yeah. So I'm not quite sure if I've done Blak, Cede, Gunyah justice, but if you've got any questions, chuck them at us.
Sounds fine. Today, and couldn't help but notice, besides the excellent food and the coffee, pretty good, tiger milk even better. But sitting there, I noticed there were these, the ceiling had just kind of wood, different. Is that for sound, some sort of?
Up there,
Yeah.
up on the roof there. No, that's a part of the story, Annie Sue. Yeah, it's a part of the story. So it's the waves that's created through that. Yeah, it's a part of the story. Yesterday, and we've purposefully named the menu, and some of the staff mentioned yesterday. Someone asked about the decoll roll. We've called it the decolonisation roll, and we called it that because it was a bacon and egg roll, right? So then we looked at the bacon ingredients and how that's cooked, and it's like, well, we've decolonised that bacon, so we'll call it the decoll roll. And so a couple of the patrons that came in yesterday, they were actually sitting at the table and having a talk about, well, what is decolonisation and how do we do that? And so them coming to our cafe supports that process, and that's what it's about. It's that learning and that unlearning, and then the story sharing, and to get more information. So that's the whole purpose of this cafe.
That's day one already.
Yeah. Quickly talk about that employment, sorry, Luce, is that we haven't needed to advertise yet, so we employ differently. We know that our women, particularly our women, it's nerve-wracking when you're going in to get interviewed one-on-one. So we have workshops, right? So we're able to bring in our last one for some of the positions available at Waminda. We had 33 people attend that, and so the cafe itself has employed, I think, 22 to 25 people, and they range from young schoolgirls to older women that's been around for a long time. And one of our staff, one of our older women's staff, actually said, she's been cooking for a long time, but she's she's learnt so much just in that short time of space within the Waminda cafe, and understanding that it's not just a cafe, it's a part of an Aboriginal women's organisation, and what does that mean, and how do we take care of each other in a hospitality space. And it's new for us as well, and we're not going to get everything right, and we know that, but we go all in blazing. We like to do it good because we have that standard. We've got a good standard. Black people have a good standard and a high quality of standard, so that's what that's about, showcasing that. And for our women to feel that as well, to get that confidence, and to know that this is, for you, this is the next stage in your career or the early start of your career, but it's about building our women up to know that they are invincible and for them to know that. Yeah.
Moving on to the refuge now, and similar to all the other builds and that drive and that push to lobby to try and get funding. It's really vital that we continue to lobby to get a refuge in our area, particularly for Aboriginal women and their children. This opportunity came about through the core and cluster funding with DCJ, and we said this is something that we really need. This is about, when women need to leave home and stuff like that, and they need that safe and secure environment and support. It was really, really difficult at times and quite challenging, where we had to try and get women accommodated out of area and stuff, and to be able to have a refuge in our area, and same thing will change the naming of this again in language as well. But to be able to have this in our area is awesome, because it means, our women can stay on country and our children can stay on country, and be able to have that wraparound support that Waminda actually provides to our community. I'll hand you over to Penny, and Penny's going to talk through our design and concepts. There are specifics that we need for this build as well through the funding, but Penny will talk through that now.
Thanks, Liz. So in October 2021, the government announced that there was going to be some new funding of $484 million over the next 4 years for housing supports for women and children leaving and experiencing domestic and family violence. The announcement included $426 million to deliver and operate around an extra 80 women's refuges that support women and children escaping DV. Out of the 80, there aims to have approximately a third of those run and operated by Aboriginal community-controlled organisations. We applied for the funding, as Lisa said, and in November 2022, we were notified that our submission to Department of Communities and Justice was successful. So with the, that's the right slide. We were, with the model, we have to follow a criteria for how we build the model for the core and cluster. So it means that DCJ set out a design brief, and we need to sort of follow that to a certain degree. The core and cluster is crisis accommodation model that moves away from the shared house type of refuge, which is the traditional refuge, to having fully independent living quarters with private bathroom and kitchenette facilities. It combines the services and supports of a traditional refuge, but with independent living facilities of transitional accommodation. Under the core and cluster model, the self-contained accommodation units are the cluster and are located close to the communal facilities, which is known as the core. The core is set up to provide access to services such as counselling, legal assistance, education. We'll do all our case management from the core as well. And the core and cluster approach allows residents to have access to much needed support and assistance, but also to have their separate self-contained units, to have their own personal space, privacy and independence. Do you want to go to the next one, Lucy? Is that the plan? Right. So there's artist's impression of, so you can see it's beautiful design, lots of timber. We're using lots of timber, and there's the core in the middle has the all the native plants and native areas that we have had designed. That's the plan. So our build has been funded for 5 independent dwellings, plus an administration building and a communal building. Just on the build, we've sent out 7 expressions of interest to both traditional builders and modular designed builders. We've received 6 back saying they're interested in providing a price for the whole build. So With that, there'll be an interview process for all the builders. Plus, if they are successful, they'll be required to attend a decolonisation workshop. Out of those 6, there's 3 modular companies and 3 traditional builders. So with the modular buildings, they're built in a factory off-site and then transported to the site. So they need the builders on the other end to put those in place. With the buildings, can you go back to the
Next slide.
Yeah, that one. Thanks, Liz. With the individual units for the ladies, they are modular buildings, and the administration building on the side is modular as well. But the communal building, because of how wide it is, will be a traditional build by a traditional builder. So no matter whether the modular companies get the tender or the traditional builders, they will have to combine together both traditional and the modular. The modular buildings, the real positive with those is that they're not held up by weather or any other constraints like that. They're built in a factory and then transported in. So there's usually a 12 to 20 week turnaround on the modular buildings. The front of the building is branded hiding in plain sight because it's designed to look like any other residential building, and we need to really sort of keep in mind security because it is a refuge. So the total size of the build is 606 square metres, not including the walkways. Do you want to go back to the plan, Liz? Do you want to talk through the plan? So just as you come in, we'll have, there'll be an entrance there you can see down the bottom, I think, yep. And it's got an electric gate and an intercom system and fobs to enter. Again, we need to really think about the security side of things and who's entering the building. There's going to be a waiting area, reception with 1 desk, secure car parking spot. We've purposely designed a secure car parking spot off the admin section, so if a worker is working late at night by themselves, they'll be able to enter the garage, enter their car securely and leave the building securely without having to walk around the back to a car parking spot. There's going to be a multi-purpose area for groups and for children, consulting room, bathroom, baby access, kitchenette, an office with 4 desks and a staff bathroom and shower as well. Then you go back to the units and we've designed it with 2 studio units for single women, but there is the capacity to have a baby or a toddler in those units as well. We have kept in mind that we need to be as flexible as possible with this space, and we're not bound or constrained to how many sort of people in each area. So we're looking at maximum capacity 5 mums, and could be maximum up to 12 children in the property. So there's 2 1-bedroom units as well as the 2 studio units, and there's 1 2-bedroom or family unit in that as well. With the 1-bedroom unit, we've designed that to be accessible. So if someone is in a wheelchair, they have access into the showers and bathrooms, and that's an accessible unit. And there'll be parts of the kitchen that are accessible as well.
That's fine.
Taking too long? Okay. All right, so the communal building has the communal areas designed to have 5 mums at any one time in there preparing food. We will offer our case management team of about 8 will work at the Refuge, and we'll have office supported crisis accommodation for our women for case management, and it will all be a culturally centred wraparound support for our Aboriginal women and women with Aboriginal children. and I won't go on because I'm
On this slide, as you can see, similar materials and that used as well, the rammed earth, that natural woods and fibres and stuff.
And the exciting thing is that the DA went to council about 3 to 4 weeks ago now, and we're looking at starting build around August and operational by early 2025. It's very exciting. Any questions? Any questions about the refuge?
Sorry, I think it's one question. Is there the intention to later on have more, like to be able to expand if there is need in the community? Like, is there the land available there to expand the refuge down the track if there's a need in the community?
Yes, sorry for those online. There was a question, is there a need for the refuge to be able to expand given the need of the community? At the moment there isn't, and what we don't want is we don't want to continue to have big refuges and stuff. We want to make sure that we're all working together to reduce violence and that in our communities and stuff. But clearly hearing what you're saying, on the build site, potentially, there is a possibility to have like some little self-contained tiny homes and stuff like that on there.
Like a transition into
for transitioning, before they're ready to go back home to community. Yeah.
So more of a bit more of a long-term transitional process.
Yeah.
Once being in the main hub of the refuge.
Yeah. And with that too, like obviously with Waminda, because I suppose when we're talking about all these different projects, people can look at them as being silo and they're their own little entity, but they're not. So it's still that Waminda wrapping around, providing all the services. So what you're talking about exactly is like the women who are in the refuge, they will have caseworkers, they will have seen their doctors, their midwives if they're, bingy and things like that. So they'll still continue to have that wraparound service with them and then continue to support them once they move out of the refuge as well. And once they're housed and transition, like we've got transitional housing projects as well. So that could be opportunity. So there's definitely opportunity for growth. But then always, like you said, Lisa, thinking about like how do we reduce that? Like how do we eliminate that eventually in the down the future? Yeah.
And the women will never be transitioned out into homelessness, like they will transition into either return to their home, which will have been made secure, or into a new home that we will have helped them to apply for.
So just, I know we're onto the new slide about our 40-year celebration, but I just want to make note that Papish is the architects who we've been in collaboration now for, I don't even know how many years now, probably 3. 3, wow. Jeez. Okay, 3 years. 4, Melinda. So 4 years. We've been collaborating with Papish, and so they've actually been on board, for designing all of our buildings, and it's been a great relationship that we've been able to build. And so all the designs that you're seeing today are from Papish, in collaboration with us, and they've been able to really sit there and listen to what our needs are and what it means to be culturally safe, and they've been part of this journey, learning themselves. Like what Penny had mentioned about the build for the refuge, about the tender process, exactly the same for the birth centre. It'll be the same for the rehab centre. So it'll be out for tender, expression of interest, to go through interview process. Those who are coming on board will come through the decolonisation workshops. Same with Papish, they've done the same thing. So all about that, reclamation, truth telling. So, whoever we bring into this space with us is on this journey about, making change for our people. Yeah. And it's not just about them making money off us. It's about us, really reclaiming this space and educating people. Yeah, making it safe, yeah.
And I think too, it's also like generating employment opportunities, you know, through each of the builds. There's a lot of staff that's actually going to be required in each of the buildings and stuff. So
Yeah.
it is opportunities for community and for mob, you know, to be a part of the builds and to be a part of, you know, Waminda and
That's right.
and for community.
Yeah, and you know we've brought on consultants as well, external consultants into this space with us to be able to create those briefs and to do the financial modelling and analysis and the data, and so there's a lot of hours and a lot of different people that's come into this space for us to be able to present on these projects today and be able to have this available for our community. You know, and I feel like, you know, for us as a community, there's a lot happening, but we're getting it done and we're meeting the gaps. And so for us, it's about Waminda's growth, and it's about, you know, the community need, and it's about, you know, Waminda's strategic direction, the 5 years, you know, and we're actually met that at 70%, and we've still got another year to go on our strategic direction. So for us, it's, you know, that's what it's about. It's about just to keep doing that work, which leads us into 40 years. So for Waminda, you know, everything that we do, we are always recognising and acknowledging when Gudjaga was first began in 1984. That was the conception. That was the birthing. That was the very beginning. We would not have Waminda without Gudjaga. So for us, when we talk about Gudjaga, that was in 1984. And when it was first came to be, Gudjaga was a program, and it was actually funded by New South Wales Women's Health. So it wasn't an art show, it wasn't registered. ORIC actually didn't exist in 1984, and it wasn't until South Coast Women's Health and Welfare Aboriginal Corporation. So when that transition happened from Gudjaga to that's when it became a Aboriginal community controlled organisation, and that's when it was registered with ORIC. So for us as an organisation, we are celebrating 40 years of Aboriginal women in leadership from 1984. So, but as an art show, being registered with ORIC, that wasn't until I think 1989. So that's the 40 years of being an art show. But for us, it's not about that. It's about Aboriginal women in leadership, and it's about Gudjaga. So it's from the beginning to where it is now. So it's exciting. You know, we wanted to really make sure that we celebrate this, and we, you know, we get our community involved, and really acknowledging our aunties, the fight, what they've been through, and what they've continued, the work that we're continuing to do. You know, it's legacy work, right? It's bigger than us, the work that we're doing, and we're very, you know, we feel very privileged and very honoured to be in the positions that we are, you know, and I speak, you know, on behalf of the exec and the senior Balungs within Waminda. For us, it's about, you know, just always upholding that and that respect and that knowledge and that wisdom that our aunties have always given us, you know, and being able to have the service that we have today. So for us, that's what this year's about, the 40 years. So we wanted to do a big celebration of this as well, and we're doing it in different ways. So what we're going to have is we're going to have an actual community luncheon. So the community luncheon is invite only. So that's on the 1st of June, and that's the first date that South Coast Women's Health and Welfare was actually registered in all those years ago in 1989. So what we're going to have is we're invited aunties from the community to come have a luncheon and to celebrate the 40 years. So that'll be the kick-off. Then from that we'll have, for many years we've been talking about at Waminda having a conference, and for us as Waminda staff, we travel around everywhere, and we're always presenting at different conferences, talking about what Waminda does, our model of care, and the, you know, the programs and the amazing work we're doing in our communities, and sharing that with other Aboriginal communities as well. So what we thought is it's the perfect year for us to actually hold our own conference. So Waminda's going to be holding a conference in September. Now it's a national conference, and it's meant for women from all over, all the different countries. And when I say countries, I'm talking about, you know, our countries, our language, our clans. So all women coming together, coming to present on truth-telling, self-determination, all the positive stuff, the strengthening of what they're doing in their communities, and us coming together to share that together, and just representing our women in leadership and what we're doing for our communities and how we're making change and how can we learn from each other. And so that conference is for that. So you can imagine with us as an organisation and the different relationships we build and how we travel around, going to Broome, going to, Galawinku, going to all these different communities all around the country where we can bring those women to our country and we can show them how we do what we do, and being able to share that knowledge, that cultural knowledge too, is really important. But it's about celebration, bringing women together, and it goes over about a day and a half. There's going to be a dinner, but it's like a normal conference. You register, you pay to come, you come to the dinner, and then we've got, the day and a half of different speakers, panellists, and, I think it's going to be an amazing event for us, and just to bring the women to our community and showcase what we do. And so that's the conference. Is there anything you want to add about the conference? Just jump in. So then, so that the conference is in the 17th to 19th of September, and then what we're having, so that's the welcoming dinner. So then we're having a family fun day. So this is for the whole of community to come together and celebrate the 40 years. So we're going to be holding that up at the Showground, and that's on the 3rd of October, so it's during the school holidays. And so that's going to be like a festival, fun day. It's about having food, delicious food. It's about having games, having rides, having performances, having our community just come together and just celebrate being who we are. And for us, of course, it's the 40 years of Waminda and that leadership in our community. And there will be expression of interest for community to come and perform on the day. And, so we just want to really make it fun, inviting, welcoming, and just a day of celebration. So there are our celebrations for the year, and we're actually going to be creating a film, a 40-year film for Waminda as well. And we secured some funding to do that as well, which is exciting. So we'll be able to record all this year and pull that together, and then have that for, the future generations to come to see what Waminda has been about and its journey. I think it's not just me, but we just think it's so important that we document this, because as a people, sometimes we forget. We don't do that, and it's all that, it's held in our minds and its memories, but we want to be able to visually show that. And that's everything that we do. We can get so busy and caught up in the doing, but for us it's about, we've got to stop, we've got to record, we've got to do whole oral history. We've got to record all this information and have it for the future generations' knowledge, and so leave a legacy. Any questions on the 40 year? Or anything, really? Anything. So do you want to round it up for the people online?
So thank you everyone that is online. If there is any questions and that, please feel free, if you want to send some through, you can send them through to admin@waminda.org.au, or also our executive assistant's email, which is the executiveassistants@waminda.org.au, and we can answer any questions that you may have for us. Once again, thank you very much, and thank you everyone for coming today.
And for those present in the room, we've got some food and also visual displays of what we've been talking about throughout the morning. So have a look around, have a diary, come and have a yarn with us if you like. Thanks for coming.